Last week, I read an excerpt from a Martin Luther King Jr. essay called a speech called "Where Do We Go From Here?" that was given in Atlanta in August of 1967, and it's on the function of love. So I just want to set our minds with that. You see, what happened is that some of our philosophers got off base, and one of the great problems of history is that the concept of love and power have usually been contrasted as opposites, polar opposites, so that love is identified with a resignation of power and power with a denial of love. It was this misinterpretation that caused the philosopher Nietzsche, who was a philosopher of the will to power, to reject the Christian concept of love. It was the same misinterpretation which induced Christian theologians to reject Nietzsche's philosophy of the will to power in the name of the Christian idea of love. Now we got to get this right. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. And this is what we must see as we move on. I want us to think about love and power because I think sometimes when we think about love, we have this hallmark vision, this emotional feeling, this lovey-dovey, this stars in the eyes idea of love. And that is not what Paul is talking about in this letter. Paul is talking about agape love. Many of you know that word, know that phrase, understand that because it's been a part of this congregation for a long time. That agape love is love between humankind, love between siblings, love for your community, and that love is an action word. It's not a feeling word. So it is a verb, and as we know, verbs are action words. So also, this is a fascinating, and I think I knew this somewhere, but I was reminded of it today, or this week, that this chapter 13 is toothless and anemic if you don't see it in the context of the rest of the book of Corinthians. These words came out of a pastoral crisis in the Corinthian church, as Lewis Galloway puts it. The Corinthian Christians are abusing their freedom, refusing to share, scorning their neighbors' spiritual gifts. They're boasting in their own gifts. They're seeking recognition for themselves. They're jockeying for position. The problem is not the lack of the spiritual gifts, but the ways in which they are being exercised. Lewis Galloway continues, these words on the primacy of love can help the church in conflict understand that there are some things that are more important than being right or powerful or honored. It's disappointing because I like to be right. I'm right. If I didn't think I was right, I wouldn't believe what I believe. Lewis Galloway says, if those within the church do not do what they do in the spirit of love, then all religious talk, knowledge, piety, and sacrificial giving add up to nothing. So the Corinthian church was talking about how much they were showing off how impressive their spiritual gifts were. But they were forgetting their neighbors. A banging gong or a cymbal, loud cymbal. Without love, Galloway says, Christians are like the salt Jesus described as having lost its savor and not good for anything, being thrown out and trampled underfoot. Those who think, this is a really important line, I want you to hear this. Those who think they have gained everything by standing on principle dominating others, or being right have lost it all. I want you to think about our world right now. Dominating others, being right, standing on principle. It's hard to love in a world. I've talked to many folks. My sister has a job where she works with a company that has a governmental contract, and she works closely with the DoD. In fact, one of her coworkers' friends was the pilot of the helicopter that crashed this week. They were scrambling to figure out how to edit their website, or if they should edit their website, removing certain language. I talked to federal employees, talked to a trans federal employee this week, or a federal employee who is a trans woman, and the emails that they were telling me about were shocking. And not necessarily fear for their safety, but just complete unknown of what's going to happen. There is safety, there is a part of that. But I hear from people who every hour is different because they don't know what's going on, because things keep changing. They're changing because that's a way to dominate people, to keep them dancing. You know, like Yosemite Sam, remember him? That cartoon character, Looney Tunes? He keeps shooting his feet, he can't move. Jerry Irish says, the love described in 1 Corinthians 13 is a love we experience as God's unshakable grasp upon our lives. It's the source of our greatest security and thus our freedom to actually be patient and kind, to bear all things, and to not insist on our own way. Again, it's disappointing. There is a reason that we talk about belovedness every week, multiple times. There's a reason that we talk about inclusion every week, multiple times. It's because outside of these walls, it is rarely talked about in a meaningful way. And in my own life, and in lives of others I've seen, when they are able to grasp that they are beloved for who they are, who God created them to be, all of it, no bad parts, their traumas, their joys, their concerns, their idiosyncrasies, their identities, they are loved in the midst of all of that. When you can glimpse that moment, it allows you to stay centered. It allows you to remember to be patient and kind when the world is not patient or kind and certainly insists on its own way. And this is the thing that's really hard for me right now. Love does not insist on its own way. I think there's a lot of things that are going on that are not the way that I would do it. That doesn't mean that that's the right way. And how do I, grounded in my belovedness, sit across a table with someone who does not see me as beloved, who does not see the problem as I see it? How do I sit at a table with them? Can I sit at a table with them and work together? Maybe today I can, maybe tomorrow I can't, I don't know. Brian McLaren said, when faith and hope fail you, you can fall back on love. Because love never ends, and love always wins. Not a good feeling, not a easy track, not Pollyanna, but love and power cause us to follow Christ in the work of making a better world. Exhibiting the kingdom of heaven is one of the great ends of the Presbyterian Church. And that is going to take uncomfortable, hard, and sometimes dangerous conversations. And we must do our best, as far as it is possible for us, to maintain unity with one another. Holding on to that love of God that seeps, that is thread through all of who we are, all of us, and all of our creation. Love doesn't mean not being angry. Love doesn't mean needing to take a break. Love doesn't mean no boundaries. Love is from God. And it's because of God that we have the opportunity to stand with our neighbors, hold them, and listen, and help when we are called. May it be so, and amen.